splits the defense behind the back. Fires a three.
Greatest object in sports history.
What's cracking, guys? It's your favorite host, Spencer Lane, back at it with another episode. And today's a little bit different. Today is I guess a video of help. I feel like I've sort of hit a little bit of a wall now. I love talking. I love talking about sports. I could really do this forever. If people listen or don't listen. I've been doing it before. I was doing podcast content before I even hopped on YouTube and started doing this. But now that I am, I want to post content that, number one, gravitates people towards watching me, of course, but number two, something that y'all really enjoy, right? Like, I get enjoyment when other people are happy, and I don't know if you guys are enjoying the content I'm making. Part of it is maybe that I thrive a little bit off of feedback, and maybe I'm not getting the most. Um, and part of that is obviously having a young startup, right? Thank you to the 40 subscribers I have. That's awesome. And thank you guys who are regulars to the show. Can't thank y'all enough. Hopefully you guys stay for the long haul because this truck is definitely not stopping anytime soon. But I guess I'm at a roadblock, for lack of better words. I enjoy the content I'm doing, but I also I like people being happy more. And I don't know if you guys are enjoying the content I'm making. I guess I could talk about any sport, any topic, any idea, really, as long as someone's willing to listen or willing to discuss about it. But being in this environment, it's different because now I'm trying to post content that you guys enjoy listening to. And that's cool. That's awesome. That's a new challenge for me. I'm really enjoying it. But I guess I don't know if you guys are enjoying it. I don't have a whole lot of feedback. So today's episode is strictly a feedback episode. I actually have the Buffalo Bills schedule written down today, but I don't know if you guys like that. I picked the Buffalo Bills because I have them as my Super Bowl winners, and might as well dive into that a little bit and see if there's some validity behind that, right? Or was that just a blanket statement that I made because one or two roster changes look nice? But on the meantime, the last two I did were good, but I don't know if you guys really enjoyed it. First team I did was the 49ers. That team is really easy to do. I love the Niners. I watch them all the time. They're the team I keep up with, so that wasn't super hard to complete and do, and that was really fun. The second team I did was actually the Raiders. Shout out to Mason McAvoy, coach. Was a pleasure doing the podcast with him, and I think we're talking about maybe him coming on a time or two more. Definitely an enigma of his own with his own knowledge to bring to the table. So see if we can work out something between his coaching gig and this gig, hopefully, if he's really into it. But yeah, I this roadblock I'm at is either I continue doing these schedules and I continue doing, I guess, content that everyone else does. That's cool, but I have my wrinkle on it. I have my own spin on it, which I think I'm pretty. I mean, obviously I'm different, right? The human element and whatnot and all that good malarkey. But I think I bring a different style of information. Yeah, of course I'm gonna have your stats and your basic knowledge and what you need to know. But also a lot of it is humor and formulating opinions based on jokes and what I hear and what I see. I'm a very reactionary person. Um, but I don't know if that's great podcast content. I don't know. Because, like I said, everyone does schedules, everyone does some of the basic things. Um, so I was talking to one of my buddies. Shout out Diego, actually. I'll give him this respect. And one thing that we were both talking about is that I love teaching. I I don't know why, but I have like a bunch of random like little fun facts, whether they're jokes or whether they're real, just these little tidbits of information that I pick up on, whether it's watching ESPN and seeing that Pat Summerall had called rest in peace, not Pat Summerall, Vince Scully, Jesus, rest in peace to Vince Scully. He called 25 World Series games and 3 perfect games, right? Like all that stuff. I was just watching TV, saw it at the ticker, and said, "Oh, that's really cool. I have that information now." And some people just look at that and don't take it serious, but me, I try and absorb all that because you never know when it's gonna. You never know when when that information might be useful. So I guess the way that we boiled it down is I like teaching. I like learning those little things and then telling people about that. So instead of doing these schedules, which is pretty basic but also cool and good information to know, I have I have another proposition. I actually have two propositions that I was thinking of doing. So I can either continue doing the schedules and I'll post an episode doing the Buffalo Bills next week, and then I'll throw a post and then I'll do either a poll on Instagram or on this channel and say which team should I do next. Um, I could do that as number one. Number two, and something I've been working on a little bit in the backgrounds myself, is um is teaching about the history of the NFL. And I mean that as in learning why the NFL came to be what it is today. Why are there 32 teams? What is maybe the origin of the 32 teams? Why is there an AFC and an NFC? What's the pass interference rules? Like all those little intricacies, like why people think football is soft, which to a certain degree it's not what it used to be, but I think soft is a bit of a stretch. Um, but yeah, I think that would be really good podcasting content. Just good, unique content that people haven't heard before. I mean, not many people, I think, know about the history of the NFL unless you're a historian or you're a professional athlete yourself, right? Um, yeah, I think that would be really fun. As someone who loves history in general, I've had a lot of fun just learning this stuff and writing this information down, whether I end up posting it or not. Just this information that I've gotten in terms of where I think I'm going to start, either in terms of the 1920s when the original NFL started, or in the 60s when the AFL started, which I can dive into if you guys want me to do that more. But yeah, that's number two is basically doing like a like a mini series on the history of the NFL. And option number three would be doing fantasy football. Now, I bring up fantasy football because I believe my draft for my league is in a couple of weeks. It's definitely not far away. And I was planning on live streaming that. I think it would be a really cool opportunity to for you guys to get to meet basically my friends and where I get a lot of my football jargon from. In terms of how do I approach a statement, right? Like where do I like all the little things behind how I decipher football knowledge. A lot of it comes from my friends. So I think it would be a cool experience to see. I've never played fantasy football. What's it like to be in a fantasy football war room? For y'all to know what a war room is, that's basically the room where each franchise sits in during draft day before they make their picks. So I was thinking about live streaming the draft, but maybe I could do some fantasy football stuff leading into that. So maybe you guys have some knowledge on where I'm going to be approaching this. And if you guys are in a fantasy football league of your own, maybe you can pick up a tip or two and work from there. Also, and the thing about that is that it kind of plays into the first idea where you have people who are fantasy football guys, right? Like Matthew Berry for ESPN. You have, I know Pro Football Focus does some good fantasy football stuff. Everyone's got it if they have sports to a certain, if they have football to a certain degree in their content. Um, but I thought maybe I can give that unique wrinkle as well. So I'm kind of in a trifecta of a spot right here. You have option number one, which is I keep doing the schedules, and I'll do the Buffalo Bills next week. Number two is I would do the series on the history of the NFL, and then from there I would also ask you guys, do you want me to start in the 1920s when the franchises were first put together and the league's inaugural year as a whole, or would you guys like me to do it in the 60s when the NFL took its modern shape that we have today, where we have the two conferences and whatnot? And I'll save it I'll save that information for more if you guys want me to go into that. So that's option two, and then option three would be doing the fantasy football stuff, and also, and then eventually that would come with live streaming the draft, which I'll give you guys more information about on the next episode. Sorry, I don't have that on me right now. Um, but yeah, that's really where I'm at right now with that. If you guys could please leave a comment on that. I want to give you guys content that you enjoy. And If you guys don't give me feedback, I don't know what you enjoy, and I feel lost. And then I'll just post stuff on the hope that you guys like it, and I don't want to do that. I want to be in tuned with what you guys like, what you guys enjoy. Tell me if you guys don't like what you're hearing. I have no problem with that. It's part of the contract that I signed when I agreed to do this, or when I wanted to do this. I know that even if it's not even if it's not people who I know a bunch of close friends and family are watching this, but I can take criticism. If you guys think I should be doing something better, if there's something I can upgrade on, please tell me. I'm not going to get better unless I hear the truth. And if the truth is that there's work that needs to be done, let me know. I'm ready to put in the work. I want to do this for a living. I want to dedicate my life to doing podcasting. I want to dedicate my life to sports, whether it's right here behind this camera, whether it's in front of a teleprompter, whether it's representing a journal or a news article or a newspaper. Doesn't really matter to me. Um, I just want to do this for a living, and part of it is I need people to enjoy what I'm doing. So give me something that you guys enjoy, and I'll run from there. I love making people happy, and I love talking about sports. So yeah, I'm gonna post. I think I'm gonna post. I'll try and post something on Instagram too, a poll, and then I'll have the questions in the comment section below. So again, number one would be continuing doing the NFL schedules, and I'll do the Buffalo Bills next week. Number two, the history of the NFL, and I'll either start from the 20s or the 60s, your choice. And number three, fantasy football. Now that I've gotten that little ramble out of the way, thank you guys for listening through all that and still being here. I do have a little bit of content for y'all. Um, maybe not as not thought out's the right word. Maybe not as formal as the others are, but um, yeah, let's get into some football news. Roquan Smith, top five, top 10 linebacker in football, just requested a trade from the Bears. Um, that sucks. That's tough. I mean, I don't know if you guys had time to read his formal letter. I think he typed it on notes from his phone. Um, but if you guys have time to basically read his formal request trade to the public, um, I read it really sadly. Like, to me, I took it as he sounds like the boyfriend who got cheated on and got broken up with, but he's the one saying sorry. Like, I'm sorry for what I did. Like, you're the one that got cheated on. What are you sorry for? You're the best player on that team. That makes no sense. Uh, Once I read a little bit more into it, just from other reporters and stuff, it turns out that not only were they basically mistreating him and not giving him the leadership, like they weren't treating him like the leader he was for that team. Apparently, they offered him a contract so bad that it basically would have reset the linebacker market and it would have made a turn for the worse. The market in sports in football is basically like the money market. What are prices for positions based on your skill level? Um, and excuse me, common practice in football is that for each superstar that has a new contract that's coming up that they need to renew, it is an unspoken rule that you do what you can to become the new highest paid player. Because as long as the market keeps going up, the rookies, they'll start making more. The veterans who aren't the superstars but the journeymen, right? They'll start making more. As long as the superstar makes more money, the people below, it's a trickle down effect, right? So your job as the best player in your position or the best player at the time whose contract is up, you have to go get the most money to keep that market going forward. Because the moment the market stagnates, it's going to go backwards because the owners are then going to use that and try and manipulate people to save money here and there, right? That's part of why people always that's part of why some players were never the biggest fan of Tom Brady. I mean, yeah, he's all-time great and he's this and that. And yes, he did what he needed to win, but in the same breath, Aaron Rodgers is doing what he needs to do to win. Sure, he took a contract so big that he lost his best player and he lost his homie, right? Devontae Adams, which is tough. But at the end of the day, each time Tom Brady took a team friendly deal and a pay cut, it hurt the quarterback market. It hurt other guys who are not Tom Brady, who aren't Ben Roethlisberger, who aren't Patrick Mahomes. It hurt the journeymen and the fringe starters any chance of making good money. Now your first thing is probably like, well, why should a guy like why should these fringe guys who don't stay, why should Jacoby Brissett make decent money? Because he got to the NFL. I don't care what you tell me. He's a National Football League player. Like Mason said in the last episode, the best Alabama team to ever be put together will get slapped by the 0-16 Cleveland Browns. Will get slapped by the 0-16 Detroit Lions. I don't know. I hate that argument, dude. It's so frustrating. But yeah, So again, back to pushing the market. The Bears basically tried to undercut Smith, and apparently that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Um, so with all that being said, we have a star player who wants to leave. And when I first heard of this, the first team that I thought of was the Chiefs. Because in my opinion, the Bears need receivers. Now, you could argue that the only receiver worth salt in Kansas City is Travis Kelce, especially with the loss of Tyreek Hill. But I think that there's a unique play that could happen here. Chiefs are for sure in win now mode, right? They're Super Bowl contender, they're perennial Super Bowl contenders. Are they the favorite? I don't think so. I got the Bills, but like I said, I could easily see the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. So I think that if the Chiefs are willing to flip up a couple of first round picks, if they have them to spare, and maybe like a Juju Smith-Schuster, because out of all the receivers they have, he probably has the best trade value. Because it's either Juju Smith-Schuster, Mecole Hardman, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, or Josh Gordon. And out of those four names, the Bears already have speed, so they don't need Hardman. Scantling's he's sort of an unknown variable, so I think that that's too much to want to trade a star player for. Juju Smith is the best known quantity there. I mean, Josh Gordon, he smokes gas pack wherever he plays. So I mean, as long as there's weed to be found, he's gonna be doing something other than football. So he's got his own things to worry about. But yeah, I think that Roquan Smith would fit great in Kansas City if they can make it happen. Um, you put him up with Chris Jones, especially with the loss of Tyrann Mathieu. Your secondary got worse, so you might as well invest into some piece on the defense. And I think pairing Willie Gay with Roquan Smith to basically box-to-box linebackers, I think that'll do that defense really well. Um, Another potential trade target I thought of when I first heard this is at Seattle. I think Seattle is in a move to make a big play here. I think Pete Carroll he's on the hot seat. He's got to do something to show he either cares about coaching in the NFL or he understands that this is a rebuilding season, but he's rebuilding and he's not just free falling. I think that with as good as Quandre Diggs is and as interesting as the Seattle secondary can be, I think it's time for Jamal Adams to go. I think that experiment has failed, and that's tough. But especially with the loss of Bobby Wagner, I like Jordan Brooks. He could be an interesting piece. Why not replace Bobby Wagner with Roquan Smith? That way you have another star linebacker, something that Seattle is common to, having a rock solid player in the middle. Jamal Adams gets a new city, right? I think that's a win-win for both teams. Maybe there's some extra compensation, right? Maybe a couple picks in the background, but I think the Chiefs and the Seahawks would be two really good places for him. To change the sceneries. Maybe the Chiefs would be the better team overall because they're in a win now moment and you have a chance to win a ring. But if you go to Seattle, you know the coach is very player friendly. You know you're not going to get disrespected, right? All the things that he basically said the Bears did to him, I am willing to guarantee that that's not going to happen in Seattle. That's not how Pete Carroll's a USC, right? Pete Carroll's basically a college guy who figured out how to use it in the NFL system. You can't change my mind on that because he's a better college coach than he's ever been an NFL coach. He's just a player guy, and I think Roquan Smith can look at that and be like, okay, I want to play for that guy, which it sounds like he's having a hard time with in Chicago. So I think Chicago and Seattle would be two really good landing spots for Roquan Smith. The third spot, maybe I could see. What would be another good place? Jesus. Somewhere that's a contender that could like really make some noise. Maybe Green Bay. Hell, why not? Why not go to Green Bay? I think this is a Roquan Smith's a player that teams who are in a win now moment are going to go for it. This is a dude who can make a Super Bowl contending, who can make a playoff team a Super Bowl contending team. And I think I don't know. I know the Packers lost one of the Smith brothers, I believe. I don't know if it was Preston or Sandarius. Um, but imagine if you get and they lost Devondre Campbell. Imagine getting Roquan Smith in the middle of that defense with Jair Alexander, with who's the safeties? They're drawing a blank to me right now. That defense on paper can be really good, and I think if you put someone like Roquan Smith in the middle of that defense, that makes them even more of a threat than they are right now because before they used to rely on their offense, right? It's going to be Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Defense, bend but don't break. Now, eventually the defense said, nah, fuck that. We can do it. Jair, go handle. Kenny Clark, go handle, right? The Smith brothers, go handle. But come playoff time, it just maybe it's something in Green Bay or maybe it's just those players together. I think Roquan Smith would make that team better, and I think you can make them dark horse Super Bowl contenders with Roquan Smith. Right on. Thank you for making it to the end of the episode. If you enjoy the content you see, please like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to follow my new Instagram page, the What's Crackin' Podcast. I'll leave that at in the comment section down below. Once again, don't forget to comment. Number 1, if we want to keep doing the NFL schedules. Number 2, if we want to do the history of the NFL. Number 3, if we want to do fantasy football. As always, stay cracking, people.